Hi, I'm Lou Scott, and this is the Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative, you just have to be you. Because here we're going to explain ideas and concepts and technology to help you make better decisions, transformative decisions. Those are the kind of decisions Vermont needs to improve and enrich the way you live, the way you work, the way you play in our state. That's what we're going to talk about. Today we're going to talk about population. The mix of our population, the old, the young, the babies, and so forth. It's very important. It has a tremendous financial impact and actually a standard of living impact on our lives in the future and now. And it's going to have more so in the future, and we have to understand it, and we have to kind of change it. So we're going to talk about population in our state. Now, there's a lot of data. I did a little research. I found a lot of data, and if you want to, if you go online, and you Google Vermont demographics, you will find all kinds of data, and maybe you'll understand it better why we have to start changing our mix in our population. Or you could just check whether my data is effective or not. But there's a lot to do. There's a lot of data available, and you should make yourself avail to that. Now, I'm going to discuss three things. One, the most important numbers today. What are the real population numbers that we have to be really concerned about? Why they are important. And third, how can we change them? How can we affect them? What do we have to do to make them better? Because we have to make them better if we don't want to have a dire financial future. It's no good what we have right now. We have to have a better mix in our population. Three issues. The important numbers, why they are important, why very simply, and what we can do about it. Now, simply, like me, the population is old. We're old. We're old. We don't have enough young people. Listen to these numbers, okay? The 50 to 64 years of age, 50 to 64 years represent 21% of our population. Over 65 represent about 17% of our population. Simply, look at the math. Almost 40% of our population, almost 40% is over 50. No good. We need young people, and I'm going to explain why we need young people in very simple terms. But we need young people. We're too old. Now, many other states are old, but you know we're one of the leading ones. Tell you why. We're about 4 times greater in less in our births. Think about that. We are leading the country in the lack of births. The lack of births in our state. We don't make babies for some reason. Now, combine that with the idea that our young people leave, more young people don't come in, we're in trouble. We're just getting older. Here's a statistic that I found amazing. Our low birth rate is the lowest in Vermont in 165 years. In 165 years, we have the lowest birth rate, and we're going south. So we can't let that happen. We got to get young people here. That's the basis of population, what we have to address, and we have to do things about it. Now, there are other statistics that you can look up, but those are the statistics that frighten me. Now, here's another one that is frightening to me. The last few years, about 6 or 7 years, people that are 65 to 79 have been coming here. That's been increasing by 16%. Not that we don't want them, but they come here, they're retired, they're buying second homes. They're not the people we need to drive our economy, to drive our ideas, which we're going to talk about. So it's 16%, and it's increasing every year. And we're decreasing. We're getting older every year. And they're coming in and making us older every year. God bless them if they come, whatever the case may be. I have nothing personally against them, but they're old like me. Now, the younger generation, what are they doing? They're leaving. The 20 to 49, the people that we need, the Generation X, the Generation Y, okay? People that we need here, what we need here to do, and I'll explain why, are leaving. They get all that old, and they're not coming in here. We're not attracting them. Those are the things we have to change. Those are the things you have to change. So in my opinion, our population is a crisis. And we have to all understand that it's a crisis. There are barriers that we have to deal with, things that we have to deal with to eliminate that crisis. But the first thing we have to understand, it's a crisis. Once we understand that, what happens is we eliminate a lot of barriers, a lot of red tape. We all focus on one thing. We all know it's important, and we all know what we're doing has to be important, and it has to relate to that crisis. If we don't understand it as a crisis, it just keeps sweeping us away. It just keeps coming and getting worse as it's been for the last 20, 25 years. Now, why is the young population important? I'm going to keep it simple. There's a lot of economic reasons, a lot of psychological reasons. I'm going to try to keep it simple that we can all understand, that I can understand when I did the research. Young families are the economic drivers of the economy. Why? They buy things. They buy, old people we have everything. Remember, we have 2 or 3 of everything. But young people buy furniture. They buy housing. They buy they buy ski-mobiles. And then they have children. And they buy clothes for their children and diapers for their children and food. They drive the economy more so than retired people. We had 3 sets of furniture. They buy houses. They buy houses and set up households. And they buy all the things that the households have. So one of the major reasons are, if you look at our gross national product in this country, it's the retail, it's the buying and selling, the movement of that drives our gross national product. That's what it is, by the capitalist system. So we need young people because the older people don't buy as much as the younger people. They don't have to. Now, when they do that, when they come in and they buy houses and so forth, and they come in here to do that, our tax base will be lower because there's more people. Now, one of the other things that have give us more tax base and reduce our contribution as older people is that they start businesses. They start young businesses. They hire people. It develops a labor force. When they're young, they come in here. They're a labor force to attract business to come in. It's very important, the young people. They drive the economy, they start businesses, and they bring businesses in. They pay the services. Think about all the services they need, the electricians, the carpenters, the counseling, everything that they buy as services. They have to be here. If they're not, the services that we have, there won't be any market for them, no business for those services, electricians, the carpenters, the masons, and so on. So they'll leave. And the ones that remain here to service the older people, they'll charge more because the demand will be good, but no supply. So they have to charge more because they don't have enough people. And that's why you need young people, all the reasons I talked about. Now, there's some barriers to that. Young people also, before I get into the barriers, young people have new ideas. They create new ideas. They approach problems in a new way. Whereas we have been approaching, and you heard me say this many, many times, you can't solve new problems with old ideas. Doesn't happen. And we do that a lot. We do it at the state level. We do it at other levels. We can't do that. So we have to solve. They bring energy. They bring energy to our downtowns. They demand entertainment, dining. We do too, but not as much as the kids. Not as younger people. So they'll do things to engross, to make our downtowns more vibrant, make our downtown relevant. All other cities in our state, vibrant, vigor. We'll need a place to go to, a place to gather. They can drive that now. That's what they do, very simply. The economic drivers. Think about it. If you didn't have them, what would happen? The economics would fall on us. For example, in schools, our teachers you wouldn't get good teachers because we don't have any kids to teach. So good teachers would leave, and the teachers who are teaching, will not be the caliber that maybe we need. Nothing against teachers, but maybe we need. So not having young people here in the state exacerbates everything. The social life, our financial life, our standard of living. Now, there are some barriers. Now, population is the crisis. What are the barriers that get young people here? Well, we need more housing. We need more daycare centers. We need less taxes. We need more help for entrepreneurial, because they want to be entrepreneurial. We have to change a lot of things. We have to change the way we look. We need that transformative thinking, okay? Those are barriers. Now, the housing, I heard, we need 40,000 units in 8 years. That's a lot of units. So we have to, and we need daycare centers, and we need new businesses, so forth. Now, the problem with these barriers, they're catch-22s. Now, this is what, you heard that expression, but let me explain the expression. Catch-22, for example. We have young kids here. Now, they need places to work, okay? But business won't come in here. Business won't come unless you have young kids. And the young kids won't come unless you have businesses. So before the businesses come, the young people leave, and the businesses don't come. It's a catch-22. Problem, big problem. And catch-22 problems are very difficult to solve. Let me give you a definition of what the catch-22 is. It's a very difficult circumstance from which there seems to be no escape because of mutual conflicting or dependent ties. The idea of the young people and the labor force and businesses coming in, which we need. Conflict. Now, the only way we can solve a catch-22 business, a catch-22 problem, is that we have to think transformatively. A word that you've heard from me, the whole purpose of the show. You have to think transformatively. You can't come with biases. You have to think new ways. You can't use old ways. Everything has to be transformative. And that's how we'll solve our problem, one project at a time, every project. Now, the state, there'll be no services. I told you that, nuts competition. A way of life will change. I went over all those things. Now what I'd like to get to is what can we do? What can we do? Now don't forget, every Vermonter is a stakeholder in this. Whatever happens to our population affects us in not a positive way. It's a crisis. So we're stakeholders. So we all, it's not only our leaders, it's us. Us, whether we're businessmen, whether we're employees, whatever we're doing, we have to make a contribution to changing the mix of our population. We have to do everything we can to bring new people in here and to keep our old people, the younger people here. To keep the young here without leaving and bring younger people in. Now, what can we do? First thing we can do, here's some ideas. We have to elect young leadership. Young leadership have new ideas. We can have older people in the leadership who are mentors, so experienced, but we want new ideas, new concepts, new energy. Only young people can give that. So let's elect young people to all of our elective offices, whatever they may be. Let's believe in the problem. This problem is a crisis. We have to focus on that. We have to remember that everything we do in our project is that we have to change the mix. Now, one of the ideas of that, if you're doing a project, whatever you're doing, you're on a board building a park or a driveway, or you're just brainstorming with leadership. You have to think, what are we doing? What can we do? What can we do to be receptive of the new generation, the Generation Y, the Generation X? What are we doing? Whatever we do has to be receptive to them. Has to be what they want. Otherwise, they're not going to come here. Now, we have to think transformatively. Every idea that you have, old ideas, what people tell you that we used to do, you got to throw it out. You got to straight from the beginning. You got to start from the beginning, complete. And sometimes there's a risk involved, but we have to take that risk because if we don't take that risk, the results are going to be not something you like. We have to talk about the merits. I don't like the idea every time I hear people make negative remarks about Rutland or any part of the state, there's a tendency by Vermonters to go, oh yeah, that's like that, you're right about it, we're doing. No, there's a lot of things we're doing right. Look at the things that are happening in Rutland, okay? We gotta do things right, and we have to tell people about it. We have to tell our own young people why they should stay here and nurture that. And we have to tell anybody that talks to us about it, new people, what all the great things we are. Don't accept what their belief is, because sometimes it's a rumor. It's not true. It's hearsay. We know there's a lot of great things we have. And those are the things that we have to talk about. Simple things that we can do. Okay? Now, if you're in a business, if you're an employee or in a business, let's do the business in a different way. Let's make sure that our young people stay. You have to do things. You have to make them participate. You have to make them feel important. Otherwise, they're not going to stay. They're not going to stay. They're going to leave. We're having enough time trying to get people to work right now. Just imagine if they don't stay. So you're in a business. You've got to be careful about how you're running the business, how you're treating your employees. Okay? We're facing a crisis of population, a young population, the working population. This is the labor force that will attract business. If we don't have a labor force, business doesn't come. And we need businesses to come here. We need young people to come here. So, one of the last things I mentioned in a lot of different ways. We have to eliminate our biases. We have our human biases to do things what we used to do things that are safe, to do things that other people told us to do things that the majority of people want to do. No. We have to do things transformatively. Our gut will tell us this is the right. We have to do projects and things and activities that are receptive to the young people, receptive to those generations. Whether we agree with them or not, we need them. We need them. So those are the things, simple things, that we can do. Easy. Now, let me conclude. About 20 years ago, Vermont did its own piece of research. It was like a dashboard of how we're doing, how's healthy. We were healthy in a lot of places, living, skiing, whatever the case might be. But the demographics showed us that we had a problem of getting old. Our population was aging. That was 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. We said, now we've been doing things to try to ameliorate that problem, try to solve the problem. But the things we're doing haven't worked. They haven't worked. We can't continue to do things that we've been doing before because they haven't worked. Our population is still decreasing. Our young population, the young population is going down, and the older population is coming up. Exactly the opposite of what we need. And we've been doing everything, all these things. So when we think about things that we're doing, or we're talking to leadership and rules and laws, we have to think about how are they receptive to the younger generations? What do we need? Every project that we do, every project. Ladies and gentlemen, we've known about this for 20 years. Our leaders have known about this for 20 years. We have to start demanding that we start doing new things, new ways, okay? Now, a lot of Vermonters think that the exact opposite. They think that if we don't invite young people in here, we'll have less competition, our standard of living will be easy, and it'll be like it was years ago. Well, with all due respect, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Change is inevitable. Change will happen with or without you. The problem is, if it happens without you, you're not going to like the results. So change, the young people, doing people transform, doesn't mean that we're going to eliminate the way we live, the standards that we come to live in Vermont, the things that we like and love about Vermont. No, it's going to enrich them, make them better, more attractive to younger people. So don't have those thoughts. And if people come to you with those thoughts, you've got to convince them it's the exact opposite. If you do nothing, change will come and sweep you away. And I can assure you that what you'll see, what will be there, you won't like. We were doing it for 20 years. It's time to change ourselves. We have to participate in this change. We're all stakeholders. We all have to do the thing, project at a time. One day we all have to wake up and look at Vermont in a different way, different things, more attractions, more entertainment, more gathering places, more receptive to a younger generation, which we hope we'll have. That's the population. So do the research yourself, check my figures, do it for yourself. Tell your leaders that this is what we want. Young, reflective of the young. We have to change the mix of our population, period. I'm Lou Scott, and this is Geppetto Room, where you don't have to be creative to be creative. You just have to be you. Until next time.